Hi, good morning. I'm Letty, Azar, I'm your District 4 manager, and I'm not running for anything except nominating to be today. So I apologize, I will have to scoot out before the end of your meeting. A couple of things I want to cover quickly, and then I'm going to invite Caitlin up from Planning and Development to talk about bike lanes. Inspector Wright is with us today. Thank you, Inspector Wright. I'm constantly throwing things at this guy from Cornerstone. So he really deserves it in the room today. Along those lines with BC, we have our rental registration enforcement, which is rolled out here in 48224. Landlords have until June 1 to register rental properties in the zip code. The reason I'm bringing this to you today, I know we probably don't have many landlords or renters in the audience. However, many of the homeowners, you all know where the renters are on your block, right? And the goal of this ordinance is that a child growing up, whether it's a rented home or growing up with a homeowner, deserve the same quality of life in the city, right? And so a lot of these houses, A, aren't registered. We don't know that we have renters in them. And some of them are listed as homeowner occupied. When we were doing the tax foreclosure door knocking, we were discovering a lot of these houses that we thought were homeowner occupied were renter occupied. So if each of you can commit, I'll go ahead and leave some of the flyers with me today. If you know there's a renter on your street that probably isn't aware of this ordinance, if you could please drop a flyer. Or if you're not comfortable doing that, send me a message, send me an email, contact Inspector Wright, and we'll go out and speak with them. But again, the properties have to be registered by June 1. That's all I have on that. Any quick questions on the renters ordinance? Yes, ma'am. Of course. Garden talks. I'm going to have garden talks. Not break up by precincts, by 9 precincts and 5th precinct this year. Public health talks in some of our community gardens. Some of you work really hard on your gardens, and oftentimes the neighborhood itself isn't really aware of what's going on over there. So the first one coming up is Four Angels Garden. Who's aware of Four Angels Garden in Yorkshire Woods?
What's the location?
So it's on Kensington, between King Richard and McKinney, so right over 94. Come visit your neighbors in Four Angels Garden. Yorkshire Woods has actually done something pretty impressive over there with that garden. Really impressive. So next Saturday at noon, we're going to have Sister Friends come out for a talk. I think you guys have heard me touch on Sister Friends a couple of times over the last year. I really want to make a big push this spring. If you know a little sister that could be referred to the program, it's a good time to learn a little more about it next Saturday, and if you'd like to be a big sister, you can learn more about Sister Friends. But Sister Friends, just briefly, is kind of our Make Your Date 2.0. Remember, Make Your Date was trying to get pregnant moms to, for full-term pregnancy, lower our infant mortality rates. Well, this asks that someone adopt a pregnant mom and see mom and baby not only through that due date, but to the baby's first birthday, because for those of us that are moms in the room, what you worry about before that due date, what you worry about after that due date are two totally different things, right? And you had no idea what you were going to worry about after. So we ask that you adopt a mom. Some people have had baby showers for their little sisters. Some are just providing rides to and from doctor's appointments, and some are just providing phone support. You're not losing your mind. Part of being a mom. Deep breathe, we'll get through it. So learn a little more about it. Next Saturday at noon in Four Angels Garden, I'll leave flyers on that. Motor City Makeover, we touched on. Motor City Makeover is 365. You all in Cornerstone are outstanding about continuous cleanups. My supplies come in May 7th, so I'll try to stock you up early this year. That way, if you have ongoing cleanup here in Cornerstone Village, you always get your own supplies. You know, just constantly come in. Let me be a bag, let me be a book. I love getting help from you guys, but I hate when you run out of things and I can't get to you fast enough. All right, so the next piece is bike lanes, and then I stopped speaking, sorry. So Caitlin, come on up. Bike lanes, the ever controversial topic of bike lanes in the city. So first, let me say we really screwed it up, and I know we really screwed it up. However, here were my concerns as a district manager. One, we didn't do a great job of public education. And without appropriate public education, it did pose safety risks. But I don't think we throw the baby out with bathwater. My other concern was, I felt like too much of the conversation was surrounding commuters on East Jefferson. Because there's a whole lot more to Detroit than commuters on East Jefferson, right? And if bike lanes would provide connectivity, I wanted to see more discussion. I wanted to see a network that provided neighbor-to-neighborhood connectivity and connecting neighborhoods to some of our beautiful amenities. Baldock Park, Chandler Park, the riverfront. It was more than, again, just worrying about commuter traffic down East Jefferson. So we went back to the drawing board, my dear friends was planning, and please no rotten tomatoes today, Caitlin's here, she comes in peace. We stepped back and took a look at some of the roads in D4 and where I felt bike lanes would be most supportive to our, as I call it, inland neighborhoods, right, our neighborhoods away from the river. Some of the challenges we had is those were county roads, sat down with the county, and the county was supportive of I'm sure most of you are aware, we're getting a repave this year, and shout out to Councilman's office for supporting that as well. So Chandler and East Outer Drive, you no longer take your life in your own hands, you're not going to lose a small vehicle in a pothole, so we will get that repaved. But we have a lot of county roads, and I kind of felt like we're appropriate for bike lanes, so I know I'm taking too much. Chandler was a priority. I felt like a kid should be able to play in the water park at Chandler Park and make it to soccer practice at Ballpark by 3 o'clock and be able to travel that route safely on a bike. Not dodging potholes, not dodging crazy things. I felt like our Denby and Northshire Woods neighborhood needed some safe routes over 94 so that they could connect to Ballpark, so that they could connect to Chandler. Or that you could go ahead and leave Chandler Park and maybe drive down to the riverfront, right? Take a bike ride down to the riverfront. So we retooled what some of these bike lane networks look like on the east side. Caitlin can have a far more intelligent conversation about it than I can. But I wanted you to understand from the District 4 perspective kind of where I stood with this. So I wanted to see more of a traffic flow, a cycle traffic flow created connecting our neighborhoods to the amenities versus just worrying about whether or not commuters were inconvenienced. And it's no offense to the commuters in the room, but this conversation is larger than that. We were all 10 years old at one point. I'm pretty sure of that. Most of us rode bikes at that time. We've all advocated for funding in these parks. And it's time that we're able to start connecting not only our youth, but families to these amenities that we've advocated for through the years. And again, that we can safely get our neighborhoods to the amenities that others are commuting into safe. Good deal?
What I would request, this is part of the protocols here, that when the decisions are about to be made, that the people making decisions would actually ride a bike on the route that they intend. You know what I'm saying? Going down Warren, you got your bike lane in the middle of traffic. There's no sane person going to do this. So, you know what I'm going to do. So they actually have to ride it and say, oh man, that's close.
Yeah,
they're going to arrange it so that kids are feeling better, and their parents are going to say, it's okay.
Exactly.
This is okay. That's my.
And that came Thursday, was it Thursday night? It's all running together right now. Was it Thursday night that we did the bike lane meeting? At one point this week, we had a pretty intense, very well attended, for those of you in the room that did attend, thank you, bike lane meeting, and that was one of the points that came up, so thank you.
Well, I wrote it. We had a bike tour thing going 2 years ago. A slow roll, Cornerstone slow roll. And we had fun doing it, and we invaded East English Village and things like this. We had fun.
There's the man that coordinated our D4 slow roll hiding in the corners.
Okay.
You guys want to do that again this year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we need someone to organize it. Me.
Well, Keith was going.
We met up at Tech. We had about anywhere between 12 and 18, and we just slow rolled our way around. Went by Letitia's house. Wait.
So I'm going to let Caitlin do a little deeper dive on bike lanes. Thank you.
So the handout that you got, and I apologize if everybody didn't get one, but we can send it electronically so that you can post it on Nextdoor or wherever you might want to post it. But on one side is the kind of ultimate vision for the network through the, if you want to call it the lower east side of the city. And then there's some examples of photos of what those facilities might look like on those roads. And we haven't done it right this whole time. It's taken some trial and error to get it right. The lanes that are on Warren right now will be reworked eventually to be a little bit more accommodating. Our new mentality is called the 8 to 80 mentality, meaning that we're going to work with our streets and our sidewalks so that people from 8 years old to 80 years old feel comfortable using them. And so that's kind of how we're going forward here. The bike lanes are one tool in the toolbox, if you will, of achieving that. It also, installing bike lanes makes it safer for drivers because you're now making them go a little bit slower on some of our roads where we know we have a major speeding problem. It's better for pedestrians because the moving traffic is now further away from where they actually are with the bike lane buffering in between there so cars aren't flying past you. It's better for your transit rider because nobody's in that curb lane splashing water on you if it's raining every time they go past the bus stop. So it is called a bike lane, but it has a lot of benefits for a lot of users. And so the one side is the network, the other side is showing you how the new lanes on Jefferson are intended to look and what each of those components is called and what the final product will look like. It's a mess out there right now. That is not what it will look like. It is also step one in a grand scheme of making Jefferson a better road for everybody. Has everybody in the room heard of the bond that the city has sold this year for roads and infrastructure? So it was announced earlier this year that, or actually late last year, that the city was taking on selling some bonds to improve our roads, our badly needed improvements. So a portion of that money is going towards Jefferson, a large portion of that money, $17 million. So we needed to test some scenarios before we spent $17 million to put into place permanent infrastructure that would have to be torn out later. So paint is easy to change. We're painting it, we're going to test this out, see if people go slower, see if communities to the north feel safer getting down to the waterfront. And if it doesn't work, that's paint. We can just remove it, and when we go back into reconstructing it, we can do something different. But over the next 2 years, we're going to be out in community meetings talking about what the permanent changes on Jefferson look like, and how the new connections that we're proposing here, getting folks from here down to the waterfront and down to Jefferson or across their neighborhoods, how all of that is working. And then what can we do to spend dollars to make some of that a little bit more permanent than paint and a little bit more pleasant to ride on. So please understand that this is step one. And that there are a lot of things to come in improving our roads. I'm sure everybody in here would agree that we need some improvements done to our roads. And if you haven't, I only have a minute left, but I do want to answer any questions if anybody has them. So if anybody, yes?
How long will it be till they do Chandler Park Drive, East Warren?
So this summer we'd like to do Jefferson, Warren, Alter, Chandler